Class, welcome to the video Understanding the Direct Instruction Assignment. This video will help you understand the next major assignment in the course, which is worth 15% of your grade and is due on April 22nd. As usual, you'll find the instructions, the link to submit, and any other resources to complete this assignment in the folder Major Assignments, which is located on the top of Week 1. If we click in the link for major assignments, you'll see that the folder for direct instruction lesson is the third link in the folder. If we go into the direct instruction lesson, you'll see the instructions and the template that you'll be seeing here, as well as the grading rubric and the link to submit. If you download the instructions for the lesson, you'll see the document that we'll be going over. I encourage you to download the instructions and read them carefully along with this video. As I said, it's worth 15% of your grade and it's due April 22nd. It may be submitted up to a week late with a 10% point penalty, and it may be revised. So what is the point of this lesson? So you're going to plan a direct instruction lesson about something that you know a lot about and something that you can teach in 20 minutes or less, because you're actually going to have to teach this lesson to someone. It should be something that's appropriate for direct instruction. So you're going to want to think of something that you're familiar with, something that has steps. And something, as we'll be learning in class, that you can follow the pattern I do or demonstrate it, we do, have the student do it with you, and you do where they do it on their own. There have been many examples of past lessons. Students have taught how to use a mnemonic to remember something, how to say things in another language, how to study for tests, and many more. They've taught how to research, how to assess a website's credibility. They've taught the words to a song, the words to a poem, the movements to a dance. They've taught how to say things in sign language, how to draw something, how to stretch, how to use guided relaxation and breathing techniques. You'll notice that this is not an assignment where you have to teach an elementary lesson. You're teaching it to, you can teach it to an adult, you can teach it to a teenager, you can teach it to a child. It should be age appropriate, but it should follow the I do, we do, you do pattern that we're learning in class. So think of something that you would like to teach and plan the lesson. And in a minute, I'm going to show you a table in this template that you have to use to plan your lesson. I should also say that I will not accept this lesson unless it is submitted on the template that I've provided. Some of you seem to be struggling with just downloading the Word documents that I provide and doing the work on the Word document. But this one you really have to do that because there are too many steps you can skip if you don't. So just download this template, save it to your computer, and do the work directly on this form. Don't try to redo it. So once you've completed the table and the template that I'll show you, you're going to practice the lesson before you teach it. Then you're going to select someone to be the student. This could be a relative, a friend's child, or a student. If you're using an underage participant, be sure to clear it with the parent before you do the assignment. Then you're going to teach the lesson to the student. After the lesson, you're going to ask the student some questions in part 2 and write their responses. And finally, you're going to complete a set of reflection questions In part 2, you're going to save this handout or template and you're going to submit it to the link in the folder. So here is part 1 where you plan the lesson. This is the table that you have to think about. So you have to think about how you will introduce the activity and engage the students. So I provided questions for you to consider as you're planning your lesson. How will you introduce the activity? It should be something that's engaging or a way that connects the information to the student's life. So for example, if you're teaching a lesson about how to recognize seashells, you might start with the question, how many of you have ever been to the beach? So it should be something that sort of engages the student's interest or makes it important to them. What exact words will you use to communicate the importance of the activity or make it engaging? So that column that says describe what you will do in this step, you have a choice. You can type in quotation marks the exact words you will use, or you can generally describe what you will be doing. The last column is to say, do you need any materials? Would the students need pens, paper, pencil? And if so, for each step, list them. Number 2 is, what is the learning objective? What do you want students to learn? I generally, when I teach 506, I say start your learning objectives with students will be able to. So students will be able to identify seashells, for example, might be the learning objective for the lesson I just discussed. The third thing you're going to talk about is how will you teach them? This is the I do part of the assignment. So if I'm teaching about seashells, maybe I'll bring in or I'll have a handout that shows different seashells and I will go through them one by one. I'll bring in examples to the class and I'll say, okay, let's look at number 1 and hold the seashell up. What do you notice about it? It has identifying features, and I will show them how to identify. This is me doing the teaching. So again, in that third column, you can use exact quotes for words, or you can describe what you will do. The questions are put there to guide you. How will you model? What examples will you provide? And the fourth column, again, is for what resources you would need. Perhaps for my seashell lesson, I would need handouts with pictures of seashells and actual seashells. Number 4 is the guided practice. This is where after you've taught them, now you want to do it with them. This is called the we do. So how will you involve the students to practice the skills together with you? What steps will you take? What words will you say? So for this, I might have a section on the handout where I give the picture of the shell, but I don't identify it, and I might hold it up, and I might say, okay, now let's look at this one. This one has striations, or this one is this color. What might it be? And I might guide the students until they come to the appropriate response. Number 5 is provide independent practice. This is the you do. This is where the students show that they can do it. So for this, in my seashell lesson, I might have pictures of shells, and they might have to identify them without any assistance from me. But again, you're using the third column to describe what you'll be doing and to what steps you'll take, what words you'll say. Assess learning is how will you know students have met the learning objectives? In my lesson, it would be, how would I know that students can identify shells on their own? And I might say, I will grade the independent practice, and if students get an 80%, I'll say that that's adequate for stating that they've met the learning objective. So this is how will you measure learning? Finally, number 7 is provide closure. What will you say at the end of the lesson to sum up learning? So this is usually where we close a lesson and provide a summary. In my seashell lesson, I might say, in conclusion, class, we've learned today that you can identify seashells by 3 traits: by the size, by the color, and the shape, or something like that. I might just summarize learning. If I'm clever, I might provide a link to tomorrow's lesson. Tomorrow, we're going to learn what kinds of creatures live in seashells. Might be another piece of the closure. So again, closure summarizes learning and maybe gives the students a sneak preview of what's coming. So that's part 1, planning the lesson. After the lesson, you're going to practice and then teach it to an appropriately aged student. Again, this student can be an adult, it could be a child. Remember to get parental permission if you're teaching a child. After you teach the lesson, you're going to ask the student the 5 questions. What did you like about the lesson? And write down what they say. What went well? Was anything confusing? How could the lesson be improved for you? Do you feel like you learned what you were supposed to learn? Simply record their responses on the template. The last part of the assignment is for you to reflect on what you've learned and done. These questions are, and this is to be done after you teach the lesson and get the feedback. Number 1, who did you teach the lesson to? What age are they? Why did you select this student? What went well during the lesson? What did not go well? Why? What changes might you make before you teach the lesson again? What did you learn about direct instruction from this lesson? So here I'm really asking you to dig deep and not just give surface responses. Think about the learning that took place. One of the things we know about metacognition, or thinking about your learning, is it really helps to solidify that knowledge in your mind. This is why I always ask you to do reflection questions. You will be graded using the following rubric. Your introduction is worth 10%. Your learning objective is 10%. The I do portion, 10%. The guided practice or we do portion, 10%. The independent practice, you do 10%. The assessment of learning, 10%. The closure is worth 10%. The student questions are worth 10%. And the reflection questions are worth 20%. You can look through the rubric and see what you have to do to get a complete score. That's it for this assignment. If you have any questions, feel free to email me, and good luck.